let's talk about something that is, let's be honest, one of the hardest things to do. And that's convincing really, really talented people to make a huge change and join whatever you're building. This isn't just about filling a slot on an org chart, it's about selling a future. And that, well, that takes a masterful approach.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you actually do it? It all boils down to this single question. How do you cut through all the noise out there and make your opportunity the one they just can't say no to?
Okay, so let's really dig into this quote, because the source material for today's explainer is built on this really cool philosophy. The whole idea isn't to push your agenda on someone, no. It's about presenting your value proposition so clearly and so perfectly aligned with their goals that they just naturally want to buy in.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, what we're calling the art of the pitch. The entire goal here from start to finish is to structure your conversation so that it becomes incredibly easy for the other person to see the value and, just say yes.
And this is what we're aiming for. See, the perfect pitch isn't about some slick, fast-talking delivery. Not at all. It's a presentation that makes the benefits so obvious, so compelling, that the decision to commit just feels like the most logical, natural next step for them to take. Now, a killer pitch doesn't just happen out of thin air in the meeting room. Nope. Success actually starts way before you ever sit down with someone. So let's get into the first phase of this whole thing, which is all about laying the groundwork. This whole foundation really rests on 3 key steps. First up, number 1 is preparation. This is your homework, right? Gathering your info, developing the offer, getting your materials ready. Then, number 2 is the warm-up. This is where you build that rapport, asking really good questions. And number 3, and this one's crucial, is establishing mutual goals. And this quote just perfectly captures the mindset for that third step. You want to align your objectives right from the get-go. I mean, imagine saying something like, look, I want to start by assuring you that your goal and my goal is the same goal. You mentioned you want to achieve X, and I'm here today to show you exactly how we can make that happen together. See? It just completely changes the entire dynamic of the conversation.
All right, so once you've got that strong foundation in place, it is time to make your case. This is really the heart of the presentation, where you shift into demonstrating your value.
And there are 4 parts to this section. First, you've got to demonstrate the plan, the concrete how. Next, you have to sell yourself, because let's face it, you're a huge part of the deal. Then you sell the company, the whole support system behind you. And finally, you get to the nuts and bolts, negotiating the compensation. Okay, and check this out, because this is a really fascinating bit of strategy here. The source argues you should never offer a commission split. Why? Because that's just a raw, static number. Instead, you present a compensation plan. This simple change in language frames it as a path to a future, focusing on how much money can actually end up in their pocket as they grow. So the key takeaway is you're not just selling a paycheck, you're selling their potential. So you've made your case, you've demonstrated the value, you've negotiated the terms. Now comes the moment of truth, right? So let's bring it all home by looking at these last, absolutely critical steps in securing the commitment. Okay, 3 final critical actions. Number 8 is to handle their objections. You have to expect them, you should welcome them, and you need to address them head on. 9, get the commitment. You got to be confident here and just directly ask them to move forward. And then number 10, a step that is so often forgotten, make it easy. And this right here is a total game changer. I mean, how many of us have gotten a yes that just never turned into action? The source argues that's often because we didn't remove the friction. The biggest obstacle after you get that commitment is making the next steps complicated or confusing. Your job is to make that transition absolutely, completely seamless. So that's the whole 10-step framework for the content of your pitch. But the source has one final, really powerful piece of advice on the delivery that can make all the difference in the world. And that's about telling a visual story. This is such a common mistake. We've all seen it. Don't build a presentation that's just a giant wall of text and data that you end up reading out loud. Instead, your visuals should support your point. They shouldn't be your point. You want to use powerful, simple images and graphics that just enhance what you're saying. So, why is this so crazy effective? Well, for your audience, a good visual story makes your whole pitch way easier to follow. And we all know people retain so much more of what they see compared to what they just hear. For you, the presenter, it's a fantastic tool to keep yourself on track. But really, most importantly, it's what transforms a boring list of facts and figures into a compelling, memorable story.
I mean, at the end of the day, it really just boils down to this timeless truth, right? A good picture, a simple chart, a powerful image, it can communicate more effectively than paragraphs and paragraphs of text. You've got to use visuals to help them literally see themselves achieving their goals with you.
And this brings us to the final, and honestly, the most important takeaway from our source material. This framework is awesome. It's powerful, but just knowing it isn't enough. This is a direct call to action. It's not what you know, it's what you do that makes a difference. So as we finish this explainer, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Now that you're armed with this 10-step framework and a new perspective on visual storytelling, think about your next big pitch. What story is your presentation going to tell?